Welcome back to the channel. Name's Collin Schmelebeck. You know that if you're here. This video is going to be a little bit different in terms of just more of a longer talking session where I want to really break down where I think the industry is going, especially in the Google Ads side, mainly in the way for e-commerce brands, and mainly from the perspective of someone who right now I manage about 2 million a month in ad spend for our clients. And, I've been keeping the agency small on purpose, and I wouldn't even say it's an agency. It's myself, and I've one full-time employee with some other BAs, and I love being kind of a very small and nimble team. Personally, I love that I'm still in the day-to-day media buying and strategy. Am I, touching every campaign every single day? No, but I am still, in the numbers, being and acting as a data analyst for my clients, and I really wanted to kind of talk about some things where I think you need to be evolving as a Google Ads media buyer. And honestly, I reject the notion that you don't need a media buyer anymore. I think that's laughable. I'm not sure how it is on Facebook right now. I think that's definitely more of a lacking of media buying. But I also know a great Facebook media buyer who just does media buying still and doesn't do any creatives or anything like that. So even that may be wrong. But I know on Google you do need a media buyer. I think Google is purely a media buying platform and a data analyst platform way more than it is, a creative or funnel driven platform. Now, of course, you still need someone to make landers, make funnels, someone creating static ads, video ads, scripting those out, right? Doing data feed analysis and data feed optimization. But everything on Google is connected in terms of a mathematical equation where, if your CAC is too high or your cost per lead is too high, Google tells you exactly where the bottleneck is. And I think that's going to be the biggest kind of need for people, especially when you lean more into automated stuff like Performance Max, like Demand Gen. It can be very, very easy to psych yourself out in terms of, oh, I'm not doing anything. I can just set up a campaign and forget it. I really think that's not, the right way. I think it's very, very easy to run a mediocre Google Ads account where you're incentivized to make the account look as good as possible because that is why you're being paid, right? In terms of that's what you think and what the brand owner thinks as well if they're less sophisticated. But if you make the account look as good as possible in terms of attributed revenue, attributed return on ad spend, or attributed CAC, you often are probably making the brand less money and overspending and losing profitability because you're overspending and over harvesting warm traffic from another source like Meta. Let's be honest, right? Most e-commerce brands have scaled to 6, 7, 8 figures a year, primarily through Meta ads. And it's a great platform because the law of CPM dictates, if you're going to spend $1 per click on Google, you can get 10 people to your site from shopping versus, $10 for 1,000 impressions for CPM on Meta. You should definitely try to scale on a platform like Meta where you can have more of a halo effect and more of a reach to make better use of your smaller budgets. But there's also the same side on Google where most brands aren't doing any outbound advertising on Google. So they're not doing YouTube, they're not doing display, they're not doing discover, where you can often get cheaper reach that you can leverage intent from Google, Google's tracking into knowing, what searches they're doing, what websites they're visiting, what apps they're using, stuff like that, that Meta doesn't really have access to, especially on the search side and the YouTube side of stuff. You can still pay those $5, $10 CPMs, often even less if you're going shorts, usually $10 to $15 CPMs if you're going in-stream for a more qualified audience. But you're paying for that reach and that halo effect that you are used to on Meta, but you have intent behind there with the targeting you have options to. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. I really just want to kind of, really break down for you guys. You need to be optimizing for what is getting the client and the brand or your own brand the best results and not what looks best in Google. This is an ongoing and forever probably ongoing thing you need to be cognizant of, especially if you're heavier on Meta or heavier on another channel versus Google, because Google will, with a lot of automated targeting, smart bidding, even down to smart bidding, right? But mainly with, a ROAS on, say, search or shopping, But mainly the biggest offender is Performance Max and Demand Gen with their entirely automated, approach essentially, especially Performance Max, even with brand excluded, because it doesn't change the traffic source, just changes the state of awareness that they enter Google, right? In terms of the attributed back. Um, the biggest thing is you need to be very, very careful that you're using money to keep prospecting and keep acquiring new people and starting new customer journeys and not just making your account and campaigns look better. You know, I've been fired. I'm not perfect. I wish every time I've been fired, I have the opportunity to go back and, if I was fired 3 years ago, know what I know now after millions of spend and millions of revenue later. But I've been fired for having great account ROAS where I'm meeting, exceeding ROAS thresholds. I'm meeting and exceeding overall revenue each week or each month is scaling. But there's a disconnect between what I'm reporting and what's actually happening in the back end where the brand owner says, "Hey, yeah, you look good, but how are we getting scaling on Google, but we're down month over month or year over year? Yeah, we look good, but our new customers, return customers over time are starting to decline over and over again, and we're losing the sponge of returning customers essentially." There's It all goes back to the back end of what's actually in your bank account for the brand owner. And if you're on a page of trying to optimize for Google, you will sorely be mistaken once there's a gap. If you're a secondary channel, like say Google to Meta for most brands, yeah, you may look great, but if Meta has a down month, Google will have a down month, and then your facade of what you think is you're getting from Google is shown right there, where you're purely a marketing channel. Maybe you have some prospecting, right? You probably have a good 20 or 30, maybe up to 40% of your budget is prospecting, but it's not doing that very effective because it's just still being harvested from meta traffic, right? So I really want to kind of just, if you guys are, an agency or other media buyers following me, or even a brand owner, you should not be optimizing to make your account look good. You should be optimizing to make your bank account look good, right? And that often means a lower ROAS in app or a higher and higher CPA in app. But in the back end, you're getting a better MER, a better AMER, a lower NCAC, the stuff that actually moves the needle for you and actually makes you more money in the process, but not looks great in app. So just a small little rant on that. I think I'll talk more about that in future videos with actual, case studies and showing you what I mean. What do I mean by this? This is something even clients right now that are, used to only reporting or only looking at either Google in-app data or only Triple Whale or Northbeam. Obviously, those are a little bit more advanced and stuff like that, but there's still just a trend analysis since it's click-based for that kind of stuff. And Google doesn't share any view-based data with any third-party platform. You can't just solely look at one source of truth when, all attribution is not accurate, and you should be using your backend blended metrics for that anyways. But you need to be piecing together a story of what's happening week over week, month over month, finding a trend so you can then leverage, okay, if Google is saying this, if Triple Whale is saying this on a first click basis, on a last click basis, and then our actual backend is this, how can it utilize in-app? How can you utilize Triple Whale or Northbeam and actually improve the backend results that I actually care about over time because you found a trend of knowing what's happening, right? If, for example, you need a 1.8 AMER in scaling to be profitable, or a $50 NCAC to be profitable and scaling, and Google is reporting, oh, let's say you need a 1.8 AMER, Google with new customer imports on a first click basis, right, is showing you, well, I can get say a 1.4 getting that in app, but in the reality in the back end, you've been tracking with a media mix tool, literally just a Google sheet week over week, Google spend, meta spend, new customer results. Oh, you're actually getting 1.9. Well, then 1.4 is a new baseline in app, right? Stuff like that. It takes more effort. It takes more time. It's not going to look as pretty. You're not going to have those great screenshots in app of what's actually happening, but you will have the great Shopify screenshots in terms of what's actually happening in the back end. So, I just want to kind of talk through this, a little bit disorganized video, and I'll be back to making some content. But overall, just in that, a big thing. I'm sick of seeing people talk all about just in-app stuff or, utilizing PMax or very, macro bland strategies that don't actually do stuff. if you're in their account. So I just wanted to kind of walk through this, and I'll create some more future videos on the how to actually do this stuff and the why behind it. I just wanted to kind of let this out a little bit. But if you have any questions or disagree with me at all, put in the comments below. Yeah, that's the video today.